So as I rise to speak in today's debate, I am conscious that it is now 6 months since I first spoke in this Parliament, and in those 6 months we have witnessed greater political turbulence across the globe than at any point in this Parliament's history, and certainly since the fall of the Berlin Wall. In my first speech, I argued that the European Union is more than simply the sum of various treaties and trade agreements. I stated my belief that our European citizenship gives expression to our ancient sense of European identity. At the heart of that shared identity, I believe they are a shared set of values and, crucially, a shared culture. I'm therefore grateful to have the opportunity to contribute to this afternoon's debate, which, in its consideration of culture, permits a discussion of the great anchors of our European civilization and what I believe constitutes our European identity. However, before considering the cultural dimension of our relationship with Europe and the European Union, I do wish to very briefly comment on the nature of the debate over the past few months. When considering the implications of Brexit, it has become all too easy to be ensnared in a debate exclusively about trade. While retaining full membership of the single market must be the prime objective of this government, the fundamental reasons for wishing to retain membership transcend the obvious benefits of the four fundamental freedoms. Simply put, the idea and realisation of the single market has been the scaffolding that has supported peace, stability and democracy in post-war Europe. However, the foundations of this shared peace and prosperity have been our shared culture, identity and values. Presiding Officer, it has been said in this chamber by some that leaving the EU does not mean leaving Europe. However, unfortunately, I think this only applies in a strictly geographic sense. The manner in which the Leave campaign was conducted and the attitude of many prominent Brexiteers imply a rejection not only of the EU, but of the very idea of Europe. At least since Roman times, Britain has had an ongoing relationship with our neighbours on the continent. This relationship has been defined and influenced by a range of institutions and treaties. The Roman Empire, the Catholic Church, the Hanseatic League, the Concerts of Europe and the political familial connections of royal households are perhaps a few of the most prominent. While no one of those august bodies achieved permanence as a political force or enjoyed parity of influence across the continent, their existence and history demonstrates a long-standing willingness to employ not just force, but discourse in fostering inter-European engagement. The many endeavours of European cooperation, which predate the European Union, grew in the fertile soil of a shared cultural identity and heritage, while themselves facilitating the exchange of new ideas. While there are many aspects and manifestations to this shared identity and culture, such as the linguistic, the literary and the religious, I would like to turn to the one that I think most relevant to this afternoon's debate and the current state of affairs, namely the values of the Enlightenment. It is the values of the Enlightenment that are embodied in the project of European unity. Democracy, liberty, secularism, rationality, freedom of expression, the belief that the human condition can be improved. We know that to truly realise such ambitions is our greatest challenge, but we know equally that they are what defines us as Europeans. They are our heritage and they have been our gift to the world. They have informed the constitutions and the cultures of countless republics and democracies across the globe. The campaign to leave Europe was a repudiation of these values, a rejection of the idea of Europe. It was a campaign that dismissed fact, denigrated experts and trafficked in the politics of division and xenophobia. The 1 million Scots who voted to leave did so for a variety of reasons. I spoke to many in my own constituency of Renfrewshire South who felt neglected and alienated by the political process and saw the EU as an irrelevancy. We must listen to and we must engage with those people. But while I feel regret in not persuading more of my fellow Scots of the case for the EU, I feel nothing but contempt for many of the principal architects of the deceitful and xenophobic Leave campaign. We need only consider those who so loudly promoted and preached for the diplomatic disaster of a Leave vote. a dismal ensemble of the unthinking Byong-Pong song right and the isolationist left, and a ghastly embrace with those vultures of a new counter-enlightenment, Farage and Johnson. When the result of the EU referendum became apparent, I felt that something fundamental had been stripped away from me, not just from me, but also from future generations. And I must add, as a new and young member of this Parliament, it has been a sobering and disillusioning experience to witness how glibly and superficial some other members in this place treat what is a tragedy. And the consequences of this tragedy are incalculable. The liberal world order is buckling. The centre is struggling to hold. The far right now menaces our great democracies. Presiding Officer, I believe that we are approaching a period of great danger as the global order continues to destabilise. Our influence in this place is limited, but where we can bring it to bear, we must. Brexit bromides are no substitute for a coherent plan from the UK government. Britain cannot have its cake and eat it. A hard Brexit will not only undermine our own economy, it could, and its disavowal of European culture and values, act as a fillip to fascism on the continent. The Westminster government faces a choice. It can recognise our shared culture and values by reaffirming our commitment to European partnership, by committing the UK to full membership of the single market with freedom of movement. Or it can heed the siren calls of British exceptionalism, undermine our European partners, reject our shared culture and values, and sleepwalk us into catastrophe. Should the latter seem likely to prevail, then Scotland must reaffirm its European values independently.
Thank you.